The day my overseas assignment ended, I kept it a secret from Theodore and flew 13 hours back home. We'd had a fight just a few days earlier. Theodore wanted me to keep developing my career abroad, but I was set on returning to China to marry him. Before boarding, he was still trying to talk me out of it over the phone. "Grace, don't give up your future for me. As long as we love each other, does marriage really matter?" Hearing that, I made up my mind completely. As soon as I landed, I went straight to a jewelry store to buy an engagement ring and shared my proposal plan with my best friend. On the other end of the line, a baby was crying nonstop. My friend soothed the child, her voice laced with irritation. "Grace, wake up. You've been long distance for 5 years, and he keeps putting off marriage. It's obvious he doesn't want to marry you. Marriage is the tomb of love. I'm already losing my mind taking care of this kid, and I regret it." I was about to argue when I saw her walk out of a maternity store, holding a baby. "My husband's here to pick me up. Talk later." She hung up in a rush and waved towards someone up ahead. A black Mercedes stopped in front of her. The door opened, and a man stepped out, taking the baby from her arms and gently patting it, his movements so practiced, as if he'd done them 1,000 times before. Sunlight fell on his profile, and the sight burned my eyes. The man my best friend had been secretly married to for 2 years was Theodore, my boyfriend of 5 years long distance. Trembling, I dialed Theodore's number, my heart pounding. If he didn't pick up, then what I'd just seen wasn't real. The next moment, the man holding the baby pulled out his phone. He hesitated for a few seconds, then hung up. Exactly synchronized with my phone. I was standing just around the corner behind them, their voices crystal clear. "Honey, it's your turn to change the diaper tonight. I've been holding the little one all day, and my arms are about to fall off." For as long as I'd known her, my friend had always been tough. This was the first time I'd ever heard her whine like that. Theodore kissed her forehead, his voice as gentle as ever. "You've worked hard, sweetheart. Get some rest at home." That one word, sweetheart, shattered whatever illusion I had left. The ring box in my hand seemed to burn, mocking my years of foolishness. Vanessa had been secretly married for 2 years, never posting a single photo of her husband, yet always urging me to break up with Theodore. Every time I brought up marriage, Theodore had some excuse to put it off. He said he didn't want to hold me back, that I should chase my dreams. Now I understood. What he really meant by not holding me back was that he'd already married my best friend and started a family with her. The moment the car drove off, Theodore sent me a message. The words were stern, but the tone was affectionate as always. "Sorry, I was in a meeting and couldn't pick up. Don't stay up late calling me anymore. Be good." 5 years of long distance, and he still remembered the time difference so well, weaving his lies seamlessly. Countless nights, he'd stay up until dawn to video call me, the background always pitch black. I'd feel bad for making him lose sleep, but he'd always patiently say it didn't matter. He never stopped supporting my career abroad, never complained. A sudden clap of thunder tore through the sky, and rain mingled with my tears. My phone rang. It was Vanessa. "Grace, tomorrow is the little one's first birthday. You're the godmother, so don't forget to send a red envelope. We really loved the gift you gave for the 1-month celebration." Every word she spoke was like a knife twisting in my heart. The rain fell steadily, just like my tears, which refused to stop. Tomorrow marked the 10th anniversary of Theodore's and my relationship. I had planned to propose that day. Back at the hotel, I called Theodore 5 more times, hoping to hear an explanation from him directly. He rejected every single call. The 6th time, he finally picked up, but this time his voice carried impatience. "Grace, I told you to rest early. Whatever it is, we'll talk later." My voice came out hoarse. "Tomorrow is our 10th anniversary. Don't you have anything to say about that?" Silence hung on the other end. I waited for him to admit, with his own mouth, that he had married Vanessa, to explain why he had deceived me for so long. In the end, all I got was a flimsy excuse. "I'm sorry, Grace. Work has been so hectic lately that I completely forgot about the anniversary. I have to work overtime tomorrow, so I can't video call, but I promise I'll fly over to see you soon." Even now, he still couldn't be honest. I didn't press further. Instead, I deleted the application to transfer back to China and submitted a new one for a permanent post abroad. Theodore, there won't be a next year for us. I contacted an old high school classmate and found out the address for the first birthday party. On the phone, she sounded surprised. Manching, you and Theodore broke up? We all thought you'd get married. Never expected him to end up with Vanessa. All I could do was laugh bitterly. Even I didn't know when he and I had broken up, or when they had gotten married. One was my best friend, who swore she'd always have my back. The other was my first love, my boyfriend of 10 years. Just a few years ago, when I doubted whether a long-distance future could work, Theodore had promised me with conviction, "Grace, I'll wait for you. In this lifetime, you're the only one I'll ever love." I believed in his feelings for me. I couldn't fathom when he had started to change. My classmates' words grew sharper, stabbing into my heart. Come to think of it, they couldn't stand each other back in school, and now they're so lovey-dovey. She sent me Vanessa's social media account. We had followed each other on every platform, but this account, I had never seen it before. The pinned post was a live photo, a man's hand firmly clasping a woman's pale wrist, veins visible. The caption read, "Finally slept with the person I had a crush on when I was young. No regrets in this lifetime." The post had hundreds of thousands of likes, the comments section flooded with blessings. Only I noticed the date it was posted. That day, Theodore and I had fought bitterly over something trivial. I spent the entire day calling him, but his phone was off. Vanessa had told me, Theodore went to a bar to drown his sorrows. Don't worry. 2 days later, Theodore flew overseas to see me. The proud man I knew actually bowed his head and apologized, kissing me frantically, whispering hundreds of "I'm sorries." Now I understood. He hadn't come to me out of genuine remorse. He had come because he was guilty of sleeping with Vanessa. The second pinned post was a blurred marriage certificate, but I still recognized Theodore's silhouette instantly. The caption, "Married because of the baby. Thank fate for making it happen." At that time, it had been less than 3 months since my miscarriage. I had been consumed by guilt, believing I had lost the baby because I was too focused on work, and now I might never have children again. My mental state deteriorated, and I started taking antidepressants. Theodore comforted me during video calls. "Grace, it's not your fault. We'll have another child someday." Vanessa took time off work to fly to my side and care for me. She held me like she always had and said, "Grace, everything will get better." Back then, they were so kind to me, absorbing all my pain without question. Now I knew. It was all out of guilt. I knelt on the floor, clutching my chest, my heart numb with pain. Vanessa and I had been best friends since childhood. From kindergarten through high school, we had never been apart. When I was 16, Theodore pursued me with passion. I was the top student. He was the rebellious troublemaker. When Vanessa found out Theodore and I were together, she opposed it fiercely, even targeting him. She made a bet with him. If he wanted to be with me, he had to rank in the top 100 of the grade. Theodore studied obsessively and 2 months later, actually made it. When he walked toward me with his report card, I leaped into his arms with joy. He held me tightly and shot a triumphant look at Vanessa. Her expression crumpled instantly, and she was speechless. Back then, I didn't notice the disappointment and resentment in her eyes. After college, Theodore started his own business but lacked funds. Without telling him, I took out a 500,000 yuan loan and asked Vanessa to invest it in his company under her name. Vanessa called me foolish but eventually handed the money over. From then on, the way Theodore looked at Vanessa changed. He always said she was his savior, and whenever they argued, he'd let her win. To pay off the loan faster, I volunteered for an overseas posting in Africa. The conditions were harsh, but the pay was highest. On the day I left, I clung to Theodore at the airport, sobbing uncontrollably. He pried my fingers away, almost forcibly, and pushed me toward the boarding gate. 4 or 5 years abroad, I thought of Theodore every day. He always urged me, "Grace, focus on your career. Don't give up your future for me." We argued about it more than once. I'd sometimes sense he didn't really want me to come back, and doubt would creep in. Whenever we fought, I'd pour my heart out to Vanessa. She'd say, Grace, stop being so lovesick. He never planned to marry you. I thought she was protecting me. In truth, she was clearing the last obstacle. A notification popped up on my phone. My transfer request was approved, and I was to report to my new post as soon as possible. I replied with a single understood and booked a flight to Europe. The next morning, I received 2 messages. Theodore, happy 10th anniversary. I sent a gift by air. Don't forget to sign for it. Vanessa, today's the little one's first birthday. Don't forget to send a red envelope. I didn't reply. Instead, I muted their notifications. That evening, I arrived early at the birthday party, following the address my classmate had given me. When I saw the sign at the entrance, congratulations to Theodore and Vanessa on the birth of their beloved son, my fists clenched involuntarily. My phone buzzed incessantly. Theodore was actually calling me. Grace, why haven't you replied all day? Stop messing around. I've been swamped, but I'll make it up to you for every anniversary from now on. I looked up and saw Theodore in his suit. Theodore, I'm standing right outside your son's first birthday party. The next second, his head whipped around, and his phone slipped from his hand, hitting the ground with a crack. Vanessa spotted me too. Her reaction was even more intense than his. She flinched so hard she nearly dropped the baby. Grace, I thought you were still overseas. Before she could finish, a sharp slap echoed through the hall. Vanessa screamed, clutching her face, while the baby in her arms wailed. The bustling hall fell dead silent. Just as I was about to land a second slap, Theodore grabbed my wrist tightly. Grace, if you're angry, take it out on me. Don't touch them. Vanessa clung to Theodore's arm, sobbing. Theodore, it's my fault for wronging Grace. Theodore wrapped his arms around her, his eyes filled with nothing but tenderness. No, it's not your fault. It's mine. He turned to me and spoke in a low, apologetic tone. Grace, I'm sorry. Vanessa's pregnancy was an accident, but I had to take responsibility for her and the child. I'm the only son in my family. I can't leave them without an heir. You can't have children, so this child had to happen. Vanessa, tears streaming, pleaded with me. Grace, do you really want Theodore to have no descendants? They knew this was my deepest wound, yet they brought it up so casually, using it to cut me open. Theodore stepped forward and took my hand, almost begging. Grace, I only married her to give the child a household registration. Once the kid is a little older, we'll divorce. Wait for me a few more years, and I'll give you the most magnificent wedding. The next moment, Theodore's mother stormed over, pointing at me and hurling insults, spittle flying. Grace, how dare you show your face? Back then, I begged you to come home and get married, but you insisted on staying abroad. Was work more important than having a child? That poor unborn grandchild of mine. You killed it. Now that Theodore finally has an heir, you have the nerve to come here and cause trouble? You can't even bear children yourself, yet you blame others? Thank goodness my son didn't marry you. She clutched Vanessa's hand and declared loudly for all to hear, I recognize only Vanessa as my daughter-in-law. If you want to marry into this family, it'll be over my dead body. Even Theodore's expression changed at her words. The relatives gathered there turned on me, their words venomous. A barren woman, and she dares to come here and make a scene? She couldn't even keep her own child. No wonder Theodore doesn't want her. The family line depends on Theodore. She can't have kids, but she won't let anyone else? How vile. My face went pale, and I swayed on my feet. In my 3rd year abroad, I got pregnant. Theodore's family urged me to come back and register our marriage, but it coincided with a critical company project. I simply couldn't leave. Theodore supported my decision to stay and work, enduring his family's pressure to wait. But during an overseas inspection trip, a workplace accident caused an explosion. I survived by sheer luck, but I lost the baby. When I learned I might never conceive again, Theodore held me red-eyed and said he didn't blame me. Yet every time I opened my eyes in the dead of night, I saw the sadness on his face. Theodore's mother wailed over the phone, Grace, give me back my grandson. How can anyone be so selfish and irresponsible? Her words haunted me like a curse, tormenting me day and night. I fell into a 2-year depression. Now, Insults rained down on me from all sides. Through tear-blurred eyes, I looked at Theodore, but he averted his gaze. Grace, go back for now. I'll talk to my mother. I left in disgrace. No one condemned Theodore for betraying me. Everyone blamed me for being unreasonable. A notification chimed on my phone. Vanessa had messaged me, Grace, please meet me tomorrow. The tears I'd held back finally spilled over. Vanessa asked to meet at her home. After a sleepless night, my voice was eerily calm when I spoke. Vanessa, why? Vanessa gently patted the sleeping baby, a faint smile curling her lips, but her eyes were cold. Grace, I love Theodore. I've never fought you for anything but him. I won't let go. After that fight you two had, Theodore got blackout drunk. I put on your pajamas. He thought I was you. I slammed the table and pointed at her, furious. Vanessa, how could you be so despicable? Vanessa's smile widened with satisfaction. But he didn't push me away afterward either. We slept together more than once after that. He's a man after all. You've been long distance all these years. I've slept with him more times than you have. Theodore said, you're boring. I couldn't hold back anymore. I grabbed her by the hair. Vanessa shrieked and tried to dodge, shielding the crying baby with one hand while clawing at me with the other. Theodore burst through the door and lunged at me, shoving me hard. Grace, have you lost your mind? I lost my balance and slammed into the cold wall. A dull thud echoed, and blood spurted out, splattering against the pristine white surface. Theodore's eyes were fixed only on the frightened baby. He scooped the child up and soothed it gently. It wasn't until the bright red blood spread to his feet that he looked up. Seeing me lying there, covered in blood, his pupils contracted. He fumbled frantically to call an ambulance. When I woke again, 2 days had passed. Theodore sat by my bedside, his eyes bloodshot and raw. He grasped my hand, his voice hoarse with apology. Grace, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I was just too worried about the baby. Vanessa was there too, crying, Grace, you're finally awake. You scared us to death these past 2 days. Theodore and I have decided, once the child turns 5, we'll divorce. Please don't be mad anymore, okay? Watching them perform their sincerity so convincingly, I suddenly felt exhausted. 5 days later, Theodore personally picked me up from the hospital and drove me all the way to the airport. As I got out of the car, he suddenly pulled me into a hug. Grace, as soon as I wrap up my work here, I'll come stay with you next month. Vanessa is my benefactor. Without her investment back then, the company wouldn't exist, let alone the fact that she gave me a child. Marrying her is my obligation, but the person I've always loved is you. Faced with his sudden outpouring of emotion, I felt nothing. I pushed him away and walked into the boarding gate without looking back. A flicker of panic crossed his face as he tried to grab my hand, but the security barrier stopped him. Theodore didn't know that the flight I was taking was headed to Europe. I had applied for a permanent overseas posting. I wasn't coming back. After seeing me off, Theodore felt an emptiness settle in his chest. He'd seen me off so many times over these 5 years, but never had he felt such reluctance. That night, calculating the time difference, Theodore eagerly video called me. The next second, the call was rejected. He tried again. This time, it went straight to voicemail. He switched to another number, but the result was the same. In the past, whenever we fought, I'd be the one refusing to answer, crying as I called him over and over. Now, it was his turn to know what that anxious, gnawing feeling was like. Helpless, Theodore could only send a message. Grace, stop this. Answer the phone. Don't make me worry. I still didn't reply. Theodore didn't sleep all night, waking every so often to check his phone, each time disturbing the baby. For the first time, he didn't rush to soothe the child. His eyes stayed fixed on the screen, terrified of missing any sign from me. But even after the baby cried itself to sleep, there was still no word. Worry over me kept Theodore awake the entire night. At work the next day, he was distracted. In the past, even if I was busy, I'd always reply the next day. He waited until evening, but his phone screen never lit up. In all these years of long distance, I had never gone this far. No texts, no calls, completely vanishing. Theodore couldn't take it anymore. He called me directly. When I didn't pick up, he kept calling. After more than a dozen rejections, I finally answered. Theodore's voice was heavy with exhaustion. Grace, you've tortured me for a day. Isn't that enough? Can't you be more mature? Stop making me worry like this. I informed him coldly, Theodore, we're done. You're already married with a child. Don't drag me into this. I have no interest in being the other woman. Grace, how could you be the other woman? Before he could explain, I cut him off. Theodore, that 500,000 yuan I loaned you back then was mine. I knew you had your pride, so I asked Vanessa to front it for you. All these years I worked abroad, it was to pay off that loan. I sent him a screenshot of the loan document with my name on it. You said before that when the company goes public, all investors get dividends. Remember to transfer the money to my card. Now that we were broken up, those old debts had to be settled. After delivering that message, I hung up and blocked Theodore on every platform. It all happened so fast. By the time Theodore processed it, I had already cut him off completely. He stared at the loan document, his eyes stinging. She had shouldered such a huge debt for him, in secret. All this time, he thought she went abroad for her own ambitions. He never realized. It was for him. Vanessa came out after putting the baby to sleep and wrapped her arms around Theodore from behind. Theodore, did you fight with Grace again? Don't worry. She'll cool off in a few days and make up with you like always. She broke up with me. Vanessa froze for a second. Then a small smile tugged at her lips. Theodore shoved her away roughly, his eyes dark with anger. Vanessa, that money you invested, it was Grace's. Why didn't you tell me? You knew everything, but you kept it from me, letting her bear it all alone. Facing his fury, Vanessa's eyes welled with tears of grievance. Theodore, Grace made me promise not to tell you. I even tried to talk her out of it, but she wouldn't listen. Theodore calmed down slightly, then immediately opened his phone to book a flight and started packing. Vanessa rushed forward and clung to him, shouting, Theodore, I'm your wife. Our child is at home. You can't leave. You and Grace were never right for each other. You should have broken up long ago. I'm the one who truly fits you. Impatiently, Theodore shook her off and strode out the villa door with his luggage. Vanessa collapsed on the floor, watching his retreating figure, and buried her face in her hands, sobbing loudly. When the plane landed, Theodore rushed straight to my company. The anniversary gift he'd sent me was a custom engagement ring, engraved with our initials. Too bad. I'd come back early and never received it. Theodore bought a bouquet of roses and tucked the ring inside. He'd done this before, flying out to win me back after a fight. It always worked. A gift, a sincere apology, a little humility, and I'd forgive him. He waited outside my company for a long time, wind whipping dust and sand into the air. Soon, he was covered in grime from head to toe. But even after the employees clocked out, he still hadn't seen me. Theodore rushed into the building, grabbed someone coming down the stairs, and asked about me in broken English. After asking 5 or 6 people, he finally learned where I was. The roses fell to the ground, the hidden ring rolling to his feet, glinting faintly. Theodore was thrown out of the building. A burly security guard hurled the roses at his head, shouting things he couldn't understand. Passing women pointed at his disheveled state and laughed openly. Theodore ignored their mockery, his mind consumed by one fact. I had applied for a permanent overseas transfer. Now, panic finally set in. This time, I really meant to end things. Meanwhile, I had just arrived at the new branch and was swamped with work. Once I finally settled in, I pulled out my phone and instinctively started to message Theodore. After so many years of long distance, updating him had become a habit. Only when I saw the chat log did it hit me, Theodore and I were over. I'd expected to fall apart, to cry uncontrollably, lose my appetite, like I always did after a fight. But the reality was strangely calm. Aside from an occasional dull ache in my chest, there was nothing else. My phone buzzed again. It was Vanessa. Her voice cracked with tears. Grace, have you seen Theodore? He hasn't been home for days. His phone's off, and he won't reply to messages. I'm so worried. Grace, I'm sure Theodore went to find you. Please talk to him for me. The baby's been crying nonstop without him. I felt like I was looking at a mirror image of my past self. Back then, I'd call Vanessa crying, begging her to help me track Theodore down. Unlike Vanessa's desperation, my response was utterly flat. Vanessa, we're done. Don't contact me again. Harder than cutting ties with a decade-long boyfriend was severing a 20-year friendship. From age 5, Vanessa and I had been inseparable, our lives so intertwined it was almost impossible to untangle them. Saying those words made my eyes sting. If Theodore's betrayal broke my heart, Vanessa's treachery pushed me into an abyss. On the other end, Vanessa clearly couldn't believe it. Grace, are you serious? You're ending our friendship over a man. Grace, I've already compromised for you. Once the baby turns 5, Theodore and I will divorce. Can't you wait just 5 years? I laughed bitterly, tears sliding down my neck. Vanessa, the moment you crawled into Theodore's bed, our friendship was over. Theodore and I are done. We won't get back together. You don't need to divorce. I don't want Theodore anymore. And I don't want you either. Grace, let me explain. I didn't give her the chance. I hung up. The next time I saw Theodore was 2 days later. London's rainy season dragged on endlessly. Since I'd arrived, sunny days had been rare. Theodore stood under an umbrella at the street corner across from my company, motionless like a statue. He'd shown up a few days ago, but every time he approached, I'd hop in a taxi and speed away. I had nothing left to say to him. No desire to prolong this. But Theodore was stubborn. He came every day waiting. Sometimes he forgot his umbrella and ended up drenched. He looked forlorn, like a lost child. This time, instead of running, I walked straight toward him. When he saw me, his eyes lit up instantly. Grace, you finally agreed to see me. A gust of wind snatched his umbrella, sending it tumbling to the ground. He didn't care. He rushed over and pulled me into a tight embrace. I'm sorry, Grace. I really messed up. Punish me however you want, but please, don't leave me. Over the years, he'd said, I'm sorry, so many times I'd grown numb to it. Theodore, I've made myself clear. We're not getting back together. Go home. Your wife and child are waiting for you. At the mention of his family, Theodore's face paled, his voice thick with guilt. Grace, marrying Vanessa was out of my hands. My parents pushed for it. They were desperate for a grandchild. Out of your hands? Theodore, to you having a child was more important than anything, wasn't it? For the sake of a child, you hid your marriage to Vanessa from me. For a child, you shoved me away without a second thought, not caring if I got hurt. All these years, you never brought up marriage, because I couldn't have kids, and your family wouldn't accept me, right? I wasn't naive. I'd long sensed how Theodore's parents felt about me. But Theodore always assured me he'd handle his family, that no one would stand in our way. I believed him. I waited. And what I got in the end wasn't a grand wedding, but a betrayal that cut to the bone. Only after I'd shouted did I realize, all these years apart, I had endured so much. To pay off that 500,000 yuan loan, divorcing Vanessa. Have you no shame? Let me tell you, as long as I'm alive, you'll never marry my son. After I went abroad, her attitude toward me had soured. She'd complain I wasn't family-oriented, that I was selfish, only cared about money. Every time I went home with Theodore over the past 5 years, she treated me coldly, found fault with everything. She'd even lecture me in front of relatives, saying I wasn't gentle or attentive enough, that I didn't know how to serve my in-laws. I never argued, just took it quietly, not wanting to make things harder for Theodore. But now that Theodore and I were over, I wasn't about to let her walk all over me. Auntie, your son cheated, and you helped him marry the other woman openly. Between us, who's really shameless? I never planned to marry Theodore anyway. Having a mother-in-law like you would be a disaster. You. Before she could finish cursing me, I hung up and blocked her number. But no sooner had I dealt with her than Vanessa showed up. She'd traveled all the way to England with the baby and was waiting outside my company. She looked gaunt, her face pale as paper. Grace, I'm begging you, talk to Theodore. He only listens to you. The baby just turned 1. He needs both parents. Please, for the sake of our friendship, help me. In my memory, Vanessa had always been the tough one, the leader. This was the first time I'd seen her so fragile, like she might shatter at any moment. I looked at this woman, worn down nearly to nothing, and felt nothing but cold indifference. Vanessa, I've already told Theodore we're done. If he wants a divorce, that's his choice. It has nothing to do with me. I also told you our friendship is over. I won't help you. Leave. The baby in her arms, sensing its mother's distress, started wailing. Vanessa clutched my sleeve and dropped to her knees, pleading, Grace, I love Theodore so much. I don't want to divorce him. I stared at her, finding it absurd. When I first started dating Theodore, she'd put an arm around my shoulder and say, Grace, don't be lovesick. Men are nothing, put yourself first. Now, for a man, she'd thrown away her dignity, her pride, and was on her knees begging me. Not long ago, she'd warned me that marriage was the tomb of love, that I shouldn't rush into it. Now, she'd walked right into that tomb herself. I pried her fingers off my clothes and said, word by word, Vanessa, the person you've become, I'm ashamed of you. Grace, I don't know what else to do. Vanessa's voice broke into sobs, unable to form a full sentence. The next moment, Theodore arrived. He yanked Vanessa up from the ground and slapped her across the face. Vanessa, didn't I warn you not to bother Grace? Get in the car. Stop making a scene here. Theodore didn't leave immediately. Instead, he turned to me with an apologetic look. Sorry about that, Grace. I'll take her away now. He glanced at me hesitantly, his voice tentative. Grace, after I finalize the divorce, can we start over? I'll handle everything. The baby can stay with my parents. You won't have to deal with it. I shook my head firmly. Theodore, I'm not getting back together with you. Go home and keep your family in line. Stop making scenes. He started to say something else, but I'd already hailed a taxi. Sitting inside, I glanced back at them one last time, bidding a final farewell to everything that had been. London was still drizzling today, but in my heart, the sky was clear.